Welcome to the Music Reel. I'm your host, Nicola Burton. Today, I'm very happy to be speaking with Stuart Field, who is the Managing Director for Oztix in Australia. Stuart, thank you so much for joining me today.
No worries, thanks.
Now, look, when you think Australian music industry, all the festivals, events, tours, concerts, you think Oztix. You guys are everywhere. You would have to be one of the busiest industry businesses that we've got in Australia. So in terms of lockdown from March, I can assume that you guys didn't just close the door, turn the computer off and go and watch Netflix for a couple of months. So how busy were you guys when it all started happening in March? What was
we certainly didn't. It was probably one of the most challenging things for us because obviously when the lockdown was announced overnight, everything just stopped, revenue-wise, sales. But for us as a ticketing business, our workload peaked. So when we had no revenue, we had the biggest amount of work probably we've ever dealt with in the history of it because, all the cancellations, all the postponements and just the customer inquiries that go along with that. So it was for the first couple of weeks or really couple of months, it was really challenging for us. And as a business owner, trying to plan for the future and just think about what this actually is going to do to our business was really hard because we were just, dealing with this massive wave of work just to get by. And it was pretty unique to us. I guess the travel industry was probably one of the same, but if you're a cafe or a restaurant or a pub, yes, you got some work and you shut down, you shut the doors, people don't come in, but the customers just kept coming and coming and coming at us.
And that's the thing, is that there's no income coming in, but you've still got to find wages to pay for people or find people that can come and help you without, charging you. And this enormous amount of work, like you said, with this uncertainty. I mean, I think I cancelled $6 million worth of shows throughout April. I was like you, really busy trying to get artists paid when all the venues had closed, trying to find where I could, get the accounts people. And it was this surreal situation. And there's so much anger in our industries, isn't there? Because we never thought we'd be in this situation, but here we are with this uncertainty. And I'm interested that the Australian Live Music Business Council revealed this report recently that said, I think it's close to 70% of our industry businesses may not survive past 6 months without any assistance. And if you listen to that budget that was handed down last night, there was nothing in it for us. So what are your thoughts on what do we actually need as an industry? And also, I guess let's start with your business. What do you need? What kind of government support do you need in order to get through and out the other side of this?
Well, I guess there's a couple of things in there. I mean, there's, probably the biggest thing that's needed, for our industry now, which is, I get is really difficult, but it's just certainty around what's happening. Because, we're dealing with at the moment the second wave of, I guess, postponements and cancellations, because originally in March, a lot of people moved events till September, October, November, and now that's not happening. So the biggest challenge is just the certainty of what we can do and when you can do it, and that's something that's just not forthcoming at the moment. And I get that there's health challenges and they're trying to manage it as best they can, but we just can't, as an industry, we can't operate. And there's agents, there's bands, there's tours that want to work, but they just don't know when you can do them. Some of the ones we've rescheduled for 3 times now. And what we're finding is you can do it the first time or the second time, but then, a lot of the bands, we don't want to mess around our fans for that third time. And I guess as a ticketing business, the challenge for us is all those reschedules. We've already done that work. And it's not unique to us, but we've done the work, we've sold tickets. We've then got to redo that work again, rescheduling, postponing, changing the shows. Splitting the shows is becoming a common occurrence now, where if you've got 500 people and then you can only hold 250 because of restrictions, we've got to split those customers between the 2 shows. So I think some certainty. And I think the other thing, obviously being part of the formation of the ALMBC, has really helped just try and get that united voice and for it. But there's so many things you can do. It's the travel bubble, so that musicians can travel around and we're not just limited to each state. But probably the biggest thing I think, is that with JobKeeper is that there's no correlation between the revenue that a business is doing and the JobKeeper amounts that they get. So as an industry that's hardest hit, there's no, if we lose 95% of our revenue, and that continues, as a lot of other music businesses, they're in the same bucket as a cafe or a digital marketing company or something that might have only lost 35. So there's businesses out there that are basically making more money now because they're getting JobKeeper and they've still got still got revenue coming in, whereas a lot of music businesses and live music ones are at zero, barely getting anything. So there's, there needs to be some kind of correlation between JobKeeper and government support and your turnover drop. And when it first came out, it was understandable that they needed to get something out. It needed to be quick, one size fits all. But here we are 6 months on, and that test hasn't changed in any way. And there's no representation that they're, there. And probably the final one that's, not us so much, but it's just the sole traders and the people that are the nuts and bolts of our industry, all the, from the production managers and the site managers to the, to the sound guys, to the stage hands, to the truck drivers, all of those guys that unfortunately not a lot of them have necessarily got their tax and their fares in order or been running things officially. So they're really suffering and falling through the cracks, you could say right now, because they just, they're not getting even that JobKeeper support. So.
And that's right. And thank you so much for, outlining all of that, Stuart, because I think people who aren't in our industry don't necessarily understand what it actually means for us. Most of our industry is 95% still down. And they've reduced the JobKeeper. So people still have to try and operate with less money, and they can't actually go out and gig because there's still restrictions on the venues. So we're kind of in this no-win situation, and we don't seem to have, the government stepping in going, look, I understand, let's create something for the industry, as you say. Because when you look at the maths, what is it, 112 billion that we contributed over 16-17. So Arts Minister offered 250 million. So that's 0.22%. That's really when they're not really saying we really value your contribution to the economy. They're kind of going, here you go, there's 0.22%. What do you think about that, Stuart?
Well, also, it's like we haven't seen much of that 250 million actually dished out yet, have we? So, it's, I guess it's the false, it's the promises. But I think we are and I guess one of the things we're probably, the suffering from as an industry is having a united voice. There's a lot of different, and it's one of the prime things ALNBC is trying to do is work with the others, the Leafs and the Australian Festival Association and APRA and all of the bodies, and the state bodies like Q Music and Music Victoria, because having a united voice and knowing what we want. And the music industry has always been very competitive, very backstabbing, and that's the industry that we work in and love. But now in a time of crisis, it's important that we're all singing from the same hymn book and that everyone knows. And sure, it's not like a one size fits all where, a travel bubble or something might benefit all businesses. But as an industry, if we're all asking for the same thing and pushing the same bandwagon, hopefully that'll get noticed more rather than 5 people asking for 5 different things that might not actually benefit the industry.
So really the solution is that we all sort of band together. Can ALNBC be joined by anybody?
Yes, yeah.
I think, to me, they seem to be the ones that have really sort of listened to everyone, and they've got a great handle on what we actually need. So I guess the call to action today, anyone who's watching this, join the ALNBC and let's find a way to sort of create this unified campaign, and we can all go out there and say, look, we're clear on what we don't have, and let's get clear on what we do need, and we do it together. What do you reckon?
Yeah, that's right. It's exactly what we need. And, and in setting up the, like Oztix, and Select Music and a number of the others that were the foundation members, we've all put money in because we, to fund it, to start it up, because while we didn't have, none of us had any money, but we knew that we needed that. And it's free to join right now because it's just about the numbers. It's about getting that a voice. And we released recently, that data you referred to, the number of businesses, and that's what is needed is some stats and some numbers that make, the people in Canberra stand up and realise that, there is real businesses behind this. There is people, and businesses like, Oztix has been going for 17 years. There's many others I know that have been, working in this industry for 20, 30 years plus. And, you know, the future's uncertain. So, you know, getting that united voice and getting everyone to be, you know, asking for the same things and having that data is really going to help, you know, hopefully, you know, put us on the radar and be there, because we were the first that was shut down, and we will be the last, you know, with the internationals and the airlines to open. And it, you know, I think getting back to a point you mentioned before about opening, one of the challenges we've got is that, you know, the perception is that we're open, and the government thinks 4 square meters we can open, we can operate. It's like, and pubs are operating, but it's like live music doesn't, you know, it doesn't work like that. You know, being on a couple of the calls with Queensland Health early on through, you know, with Q Music is, you know, the thought of mosh pits and people crowding at the front and not having social distancing was just foreign to, you know, foreign to them. And, you know, calling out things like, you know, you can sit shoulder to shoulder in a plane and for an hour and a half, and Qantas is out there saying that, but people aren't allowed to stand shoulder to shoulder for an hour and watch a live music gig. So there's no, you know, there's no consistency there. And I guess it's just that our industry is at the very bottom, you know, and we need to get it noticed and, you know, and shout from the ceilings and get people to hear our story.
I agree, Stuart. There's so much inequity. And you look at the AFL Grand Final that's happening in a couple of weeks, where I think 30,000 people, and they've had games, you know, in the last few weeks coming up, and there's no social distancing happening. And so, you know, I think as an industry, they don't really get what we do. But you know what? When that $112 billion isn't in our economy because we're not working, they're going to notice that we're not happening. Yeah. So maybe that's the only time that they actually go, shit, maybe we should listen to these guys. Maybe they've actually got something of value to add to our economy.
Well, you know, hopefully it gets there.
Hopefully. Well, look, anyone who's watching this, please check out the ALNBC. I'm going to have all of their details in the link. It's so important that we do get our voice out there. And Stuart, I'm so grateful to you for taking the time to actually add your voice to this conversation today. It's great to hear your story, but it's also great to hear that you guys are so committed to working to help everyone else get back to work. So thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks a lot.